Have you ever met someone who had to load the dishwasher a certain rigid, specific way, or insisted that there's only one correct way to fold a towel? Now, imagine living your entire life with that level of rigidity across all domains, not just in chores, but in your work, in your relationships, even your own sense of self-worth. This isn't about being a little OCD. That phrase gets tossed around way too casually. What I'm talking about is something very real and very misunderstood. Obsessive-Compulsive Personality Disorder, or OCPD. And trust me, it's not what most people think. I'm Dr. David Danish, a double board certified psychiatrist specializing in treatment-resistant conditions across all ages. Today, I want to give you the clinical insights no one is talking about when it comes to OCPD. Because if you're struggling with this or love someone who might be struggling with this, understanding it can change everything. Let's start with the basics. OCPD is a personality disorder, which means it's less about temporary symptoms and more about deep-rooted patterns in how someone thinks, behaves, and relates to the world. People with OCPD are often obsessed with order, control, perfectionism, but not in a fun, quirky, SpongeBob kind of way. We're talking about perfectionism that actually gets in the way of life, like spending hours rewriting emails or being so afraid of delegating a task that you end up totally burned out, or constantly criticizing your partner because things were done the right way. These folks are not trying to be difficult. Their brain is wired to believe there's only one correct way to do things, and they feel deep discomfort, even panic, when things fall outside of those rigid standards. Now, here's where a lot of confusion comes in. People hear obsessive-compulsive and immediately think OCD, but OCPD and OCD are totally different beasts. OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, is about intrusive thoughts like, if I don't tap the light switch 4 times, something terrible will happen. And then doing compulsive rituals to neutralize that anxiety. OCPD, on the other hand, isn't as much about anxiety-driven rituals. It's more about lifelong rigidity, a need for control, a belief that things should be a certain way. People with OCPD often don't see their behavior as a problem because in their mind, they're just doing things the right way. And get this, a person with OCD is often distressed by their symptoms. A person with OCPD, not always and not usually. In fact, they may be more distressed by everyone else not meeting their standards. Let's talk about how this shows up in the real world. In relationships, OCPD can be brutal. Partners often feel constantly judged, micromanaged. Emotional intimacy gets lost because the OCPD partner might prioritize doing things properly over connecting emotionally. At work, the perfectionism is not always a good thing. It can become a double-edged sword. Sure, attention to detail sounds great, but not if it leads to missed deadlines, burnout, constant friction with coworkers of how things should be done. And when it comes to parenting, people with untreated OCPD may unintentionally pass that rigidity onto their kids. And that can cause a whole new cycle of anxiety, resentment, shame. Bottom line, OCPD can wreck relationships and careers, not because people don't care, but because they're stuck in these deeply ingrained patterns without insight into them. Unfortunately, OCPD is actually one of the most common personality disorders, affecting up to 8% of people, 8 out of 100. But it's also one of the most underdiagnosed. Why? Because from the outside, it can look like someone is just super responsible, super on their game, has high standards, a hard worker, maybe even super type A. And in some environments like medicine, law, technology, these traits are obviously good and get rewarded. But inside, these folks are often anxious, lonely, and exhausted, stuck in a world that never feels good enough. Here's some good news. While OCPD is part of someone's core personality, the more intense and disruptive aspects of it can absolutely be treated. I don't pretend to have a magic pill for it, but insight is the first and most important step. Then we work on challenging, rigid, black and white beliefs like there's only one right way to do things. It matters to do it perfectly, by introducing more flexible ways of thinking. A few therapeutic approaches that are especially helpful are cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, people have heard of. It's considered the gold standard here. It helps people with OCPD become more flexible in their thinking and challenge some of their black and white beliefs like there's only one way to do this. Another is something called ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy. ACT helps you notice when perfectionist or rigid thoughts show up without automatically reacting to them. The goal isn't to get rid of these thoughts, but to loosen their grip so you can take actions that align with your values, even if things feel uncertain or uncomfortable. Dialectical behavioral therapy, known as DBT. DBT focuses on building emotional regulation and distress tolerance skills. Instead of trying to control every situation to avoid discomfort, you learn how to sit with that discomfort, ride it out, let it go, and respond in a more balanced way. This makes space for more flexibility in your day-to-day life. There's also psychodynamic therapy, which helps uncover why some people with these rigid patterns form them in the first place. While genetics play a huge role, these traits are also often developed as a protective safety mechanism, ways the brain learned to create safety and control in a world that once felt unpredictable or overwhelming, perhaps in childhood. And in some cases, medications like SSRIs can help with coexisting anxiety, OCD, depression, which are very common. Okay, if you're wondering whether you or someone you care about might have OCPD, I've put together a simple quiz based on the actual screening questions I use in my real-world practice. To access it, simply click on the link in the description below and go to my Mind Vault, which is full of mental health resources at drdaviddanish.com. OCPD traits aren't all good or all bad. They can fuel success, structure, but when they start causing distress in you, others, it's a sign to slow down and take a closer look. If this video helped you, help someone else. Hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need this information. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one.